Hello team, I hope you're all well. Today we are going to be doing my September wrap up. It was a little bit of an iffy September, I've got to be honest. I read a reasonable amount of books, but there were some that were good, some that were not. I had quite a few rereads for reasons. I had one DNF and I don't know, it was a probably very middle of the road month for me, I've got to be honest, which is a real shame. So I did manage to read 19 books in September, which is 6,524 pages. So it wasn't too bad, but the ratings weren't too great. It is very much middle of the road season, I think. I'm not sure. The only book that I did DNF is The Forest Demands Its Due by Kosoko Jackson. I DNF'd this towards the end of the month. The writing style just isn't for me. I wasn't enjoying myself. I didn't care about any of the characters and it just didn't work for me. This is one of the books that Andy put on my TBR. I did also, with that challenge, he picked 5 books. I mean, there's only one of them still outstanding, which is The Guilty Couple. I am hoping to get to it in October, sorry. I do aim to still pick that book up. But yeah, because The Forest Demands Its Due by Kosoko Jackson, I did DNF this one, unfortunately. So, starting at the beginning of the month, the first book that I did read was Clan the Cornfield 3, The Church of Friendo, which I thought would be a straight 5-star. I went into this very hyped. I had just reread books 1 and 2 in this series because I loved the series overall. Oh boy, was I disappointed by this one. It is such a shame. This series is a slasher. Think along the vibes of Scream and Halloween, and essentially we are following our main character, whose name I've already forgotten, Quinn Maybrook, who moves to this kind of small town. Very much so a small town, kind of a little bit of a farming community if you like, and a young girl has died the previous year and the adults are blaming the kids are blaming the adults, and there's a little bit of an almost civil war going on within this small town between the kids and the adults. Now, Quinn starts at school and things start to go a little bit weird. As Halloween approaches, the cornfields are opened up as a, you know, it's spooky season, the cornfields are opened up, there's like a maze in there and stuff, and then kids start being killed. And there's this serial killer with a clown face on. There is like a mascot for the town called Friendo, who is a clown. Why you would have a clown as a mascot for a town, I don't know. But anyway, they have Friendo, well, the killer has a Friendo mask and they go around killing kids. And that's essentially what's happening. Now, I loved this movie. This movie would make a good movie. I loved this book series because books 1 and 2 were set in this small town. Now book 3 is set out of the town. The main character, the only main character that we're still kind of following from the original town and the original characters is Quinn. We don't see a lot of the other original characters in this book much at all. We see them at the beginning a little bit, a sprinkle at the end, and that is it. We're just following Quinn, and she's stuck now at college with a new set of people that have set up a cult almost with Friendo as their leader. And it's a whole new set of people, it's a whole new town, and I have no interest in that. I want to be back in the main town and reading about the main characters. Do you know what I mean? Like, think of the Scream franchise. Don't get me wrong, to be fair, as we get towards the last 2, they are set in, well, the first one is actually set back in the main town. The second one's set in New York City, but we do get Sydney back in the second one. So I enjoy that. To be fair, I don't hate any of the Scream movies. I like them all, but it's a little bit like Halloween 3, if you know the movies. Halloween 3 doesn't have Michael Myers in it and gives no substance to the franchise. This book, although it's got Quinn Maybrook in it and it's also got Friendo in it, those are the only 2 characters from the rest of the series that are in it, and I don't think this adds anything to the franchise. I just didn't have a good time. I gave it 3.5 stars. I was really disappointed and I'm really sad about it. I am hoping Adam goes back to this series, and I am hoping that he goes back to the main town and causes a load of shit in there again, but overall a little bit disappointed with this one, which didn't start my month off particularly well, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if that put me in a sour mood and then I was in a bad headspace for the rest of the month, but it wasn't great and I was really sad about it. Then I did read A Murderous Relation by Deanna Raybourn, which is book 5 in this series, I think. I'm doing pretty well with this, I'm not gonna lie. This was the last one that I had on American Audible, so the rest I can get in the UK and I can take my time with, which is great news. But I love this series. This series does follow Veronica Speedwell. Sorry, I have picked up a book, you'll see it in this stack, picked up a book from another historical time period that's the same time period of this, in the Victorian time period, with a very similar vibe, and I had those characters' names in my head for a minute. We're following Veronica Speedwell, and why does my brain want to say Bram Stoker? That is the author of Dracula. Are you okay? That's why it wants to say Bram Stoker. We're following Veronica Speedwell and Stoker. Oh my god. Sometimes my ADHD knows no bounds and it even shocks me, I'm not gonna lie. The way that I just made that connection without fully making the connection before I actually made the connection. Fucking wild. It is warm in this room. What was I saying? We're following Veronica Speedwell and Stoker. Not Bram Stoker, a different Stoker. And something happens that means that Veronica is now in Stoker's almost care, but kind of not. She's, you know, she's a strong, independent woman, and in the Victorian era, that is not a thing that happens very often. And they end up essentially kind of sleuthing together with these mysteries that come up. Essentially, that's what's going on here. Now, this one, book 5, their relationship takes a turn. There is a lot of pining in these books, and I love it. Now, their relationship takes a turn in this one, and what I will say is that the mystery didn't hold my intrigue as much in this one. I loved the Veronica and Stoker moments, loved that. Loved that the relationship took a turn for the win, obviously, and however, the mystery just didn't grip me in this one like it normally does, and I just kind of wanted it to be over, which I'm really sad about because I didn't want that to happen. I did still give it 4.5 stars, but didn't get the glowing 5 stars that the rest of the series has so far. So I am interested, obviously, in picking up the rest. I'm very excited actually to pick up the rest and see where this story goes. I'm still having a great time. I did enjoy it. I had a very good time with it. Just didn't love it as much as I loved the previous 4. Which is a shame, but it is what it is. I'm still having a good time though. I need to get a little bit quicker with this because we're only 3 books in, one of those was a DNF. Next I did read Best Hex Ever by Nadia El Fassi. I had an arc for this and I did read it early. Today actually is the release day when I'm filming this, on the 3rd of October for this book. Shout out to Nadia El Fassi for getting her book published. And this was freaking incredible. We're following Dina and we're also following Scott. Dina is a witch and she owns a little cafe called Serendipity, which sounds absolutely fucking glorious, and I wish I could spend every day of my life in there. And Scott is a museum curator. Now Dina's got a hex on her that means that anybody that falls in love with her or she falls in love with will end up being hurt. Now this has happened in previous relationships for her, and so she's kind of sworn off dating herself. She's done that and she's decided to swear off dating. She's got a couple of girlfriends that she absolutely adores and they are her bestest friends. They know she's a witch. Her parents, fucking adorable, love them. Her mum is also a witch, dad is non-magic, and they are the sweetest human beings. Best friends know about the hex, mum and dad do not. So Scott comes into Serendipity one day and immediately they lock eyes, they have a moment, and I feel it in my bones the second it happens. It's almost like this book actually has magic in it. I feel it in my bones the second it happens, and it turns out that Scott's best friend is marrying Dina's best friend, and they are maid of honour and best man at the wedding that they're about to go to in further up north in the UK. This is set in the UK, by the way, in London, and then in the middle of the UK. The vibes in this fucking immaculate. It is a romance. There is spice in it. It's so good. Scott is like a dark horse, you know. He's this museum creator. He wears patches on his sleeves and everything, on his elbows and everything. And however, he is quite the dark horse in the bedroom, and I love it. I love when that happens. But I just love this. I thought everything about it was incredible. I loved the atmosphere, the vibes, the writing, just everything. The friendships, the family relationships as well. Scott's parents are a lesbian couple, and I just think that it's incredible. It is a very queer book. Dina is bisexual, and I wasn't expecting it at all. She also has someone that works for her in Serendipity that are non-binary, so there's a lot of queer representation in this book, and the magic and just everything in this, freaking chef's kiss. This is perfect for autumn season. Take this as your recommendation now. Pick this up during the month of October because it's so good, and it's not even that long. It's less than 300 pages. I love this. 5 stars. It was freaking incredible. All right, another disappointment for me. The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laurie Gilmore, book 2 in this series. The first one was the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and I'm freaking upset about it. I loved the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I thought it was really good. I loved the vibes. I loved the town. I loved the characters. I loved the mystery side of it and the little bit of sleuthing that these characters did. This one I was so excited to get into. I also have an arc of the Christmas Tree Farm as well, which is the 3rd one, which comes out very soon, I think, actually, the 10th of October, if I remember correctly. But this one let me down a little bit. I don't know what it was, but the vibes weren't there as much. I didn't care about this relationship as much. Honestly, my head is now completely empty of what happened in this book, I'm not gonna lie. This ended up getting 3 stars for me. I don't know what it was about it, but I just didn't care as much. I wasn't enjoying it as much. What happened? Oh yeah, so Hazel works in the local bookstore in town, and she's been getting little notes in some of her books that are a little bit like a scavenger hunt. Now Noah is somebody else in town that these two kind of have. I don't know, I can't remember because it's been a while since I've read Pumpkin Spice Cafe, but I can't remember if there is a glimpse of this relationship starting in the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, because for me it felt very rushed in this. It felt very insta-lovey and I wasn't on board with it. So I can't remember if we were already supposed to be invested from book 1. So maybe that's affected my rating a little bit. If you know the answer to that, please let me know in the comments down below. But I felt like this was a little bit insta-lovey. Noah decides to help her out with the scavenger hunt with the notes in the books and stuff, and a relationship kind of builds from there, albeit it does just feel incredibly rushed. Noah already has a huge crush on Hazel. She's not convinced that he does, but she's kind of into him as well, and it just kind of goes from there. It was nice to see the characters from the previous first book, so I liked that, but overall this kind of let me down a little bit and I'm really sad about it. So book 2 in the Dream Harbour series, 3 stars. Okay, next I did pick up Shadow Gast by Thomas Taylor. I'm really glad that I've continued this series. I've got 2 more books left in the series and I am aiming to finish them by the end of the year. There's another round of final book support group will be coming up in November, so I'll probably aim to finish them then. But this is book 3 in the Arion Sea series, and it was so nice to be back with these characters. It is a middle grade. I gave it 4 stars. It was really nice to be back with the characters back in Arion Sea, and this one did have like puppets and stuff in it, and it was quite creepy, I'm not gonna lie. I had a good time with it, and it was so nice to be back with Herbie Lemon and Violet Palmer. Struggles. I wanted to say Herbie and Lemon, but that was the same person. So yeah, I did have a good time with this one. I'm glad I've picked it up. I'm glad I've continued the series, and I'm excited to get to the last 2. Alright, next we had one of Andy's picks, which was his first pick, and it's one of his favourite books of all time, if not his actual favourite book of all time. But I did read Postmortem by Patricia Cornwell, which is the first in this series, and this is, I don't know what the actual series is called, but we're following Kay Scarpetta, who is a chief medical officer. My brain emptied for a second then. So if you do not like detective stories, maybe this one may work for you or may not, because it's very similar to a detective story, but she's a chief medical officer instead. But We are following her, and there is a serial killer on the loose, and essentially she is trying to solve the mystery of that, with a lot of stuff going on in the background with her as well. I was quite invested in Kate, I'm not gonna lie, and what was going on in her life in the background. I liked the mystery element of this. I was concerned. We were getting to like this point of the book and I was like, am I gonna find out who this is? It felt like an episode of CSI. You do find out who the killer is in this one, by the way. I was really worried it was going to force me to continue the series to find out who it was, and it was going to be a long-term serial killer thing. It's not. It's done in one book. But because the series is like 20 books long or something. But I thought this was good. Will I continue the series? Probably not. But I'm glad that I've read it. Andy can stop mithering the shit out of me now to pick this one up. I am glad I've read it. I did give it 3.5 stars. It was a fun time, and it was like an episode of CSI, so I did enjoy myself. I just don't know if I would necessarily continue on with the series. It is what it is. But I've done it now, so tick. Next, I did do a reread of Sadie by Courtney Summers. Now, I'm not going to go into my actual review on this because this is for a video that doesn't come out till later on in October. So I'm just letting you know that I did reread it, but my full review and thoughts on this will be in there. So just bear in mind I gave this 5 stars the first time I read it and absolutely fucking loved it. And my full thoughts on my actual reread of this be in that video. All I will say is that sometimes, you know when they say you shouldn't meet your heroes? I feel like sometimes you shouldn't reread your favourite books. It's not to say I hated my reread. I'm just saying sometimes it doesn't work. So anyway, I did reread Sadie. I will leave my full thoughts on this for the video that's coming out later on in the month. Just had to mention it because I did actually read it in September. Next, I do have another arc, and it is The Restaurant of Lost Recipes by Hisashi Kashiwai. This is the second to the Kamigawa Food Detectives, and I loved this. This is following a father-daughter duo who own a restaurant, and in the first one, we meet them and we meet their restaurant, and essentially what they do is they will have customers come in with a description of a meal that takes them back in time, kind of to like a memory, and then our main characters essentially will make this food for the character. 2 weeks later they will come back and they will try the food, and we will get like their whole story around this food, what the food means to them, and then we will get their reaction, and then we get a little bit at the end following father and daughter and just a little bit of something they might do after the client's gone, or you know, there's like an entire like shrine there to her mum, his wife, and we might get a moment between them three with the shrine and stuff, and it's just really, really sweet, and I really love it. And this continues on. There was 1 or 2 in here I think that might have had a cheeky tear in my eye with, and it's just really, really sweet, and I really enjoyed this. I did give it 4.5 stars. Thank you to Pan Macmillan Book Break for sending me this one. I truly appreciate it. Also with Best Hex Ever, thank you to Del Rey for sending me that one as well. I truly appreciate it. But yeah, absolutely love this one. Also comes out today, the 3rd of October, when I'm filming this, not when I'm uploading it. So if you're interested in reading this, start with the Kamigawa Food Detectives and then go on to this one. They're both now out. It's translated fiction, by the way. Another arc that I did get to was Luci and Dying by Kirsten White. Thank you to Del Rey again for sending me this one. I truly appreciate it. I started this one. It took me 30 days to get through this book, if you were interested in how this went. 30 days to get through the book. I started it, physically reading it. I was having a good time. I was enjoying myself. You know, we're following 3 different POVs. And I was enjoying it. I was enjoying the short chapters because they are very short. It was kind of not quick to get through, I would say, but I was kind of having a good time. It was going all right. I had that moment with my wrist. By the way, just a quick update on that while we're here, and I've just mentioned it. This is still in a little bit of pain. There isn't a great deal I can do about it, unfortunately. I'm just constantly trying to use it and not use it, overuse it, but still use it, just to keep it in motion. So I had a huge problem with my wrist, and I did ask the publishers if they could send me an e-arc of it as well, because this was starting to, you know, it's not small. So they did that, and then I was reading it on my Kindle, and I thought, this is great. I'm going to power through this now because I'm going to find it way quicker to read. There's some logic in there somewhere. Lo and behold, that didn't happen. I got halfway through this, and then as a release day approached, there was no way I'm going to finish this before release day. So I did end up finishing the last half on audio, which got me through it very quick on release day. So I didn't have a good time with this, I'm not going to lie. I gave this 2 stars. My head is empty on this now, to be perfectly honest. I can't remember at all how this ends. Not a single clue how this book ends. And I just felt like it went on and on and on. And I think the only reason I actually ended up finishing this and not DNFing it was my determination to fucking get through it, because I'd already spent so much time on it and it was an arc, and I was determined to just at least finish it because I'd been sent an arc of it. I'm really sad I didn't like it. I can't quite figure out what it was that just didn't work for me. I don't know if it's that it just went on too long for me and it took me too long to get through. I don't know if it was the writing style. I don't know if it was the fact that I just didn't care enough, but I did want to know how it ended. I was just invested enough. I wasn't invested in the story. I was invested in the fact that I'd already invested so much time, and I was like, I have to finish this now just to know how it ends. So I just ran through the last half of it with the audiobook, essentially. Yeah, this one didn't work for me. 2 stars for this one, and I'm really sad about it. I've no doubt it will probably work for a lot of other people, but for me, it just didn't work, unfortunately. Okay, next we had another arc. I did really well with my arcs this month, honestly. I managed to get to 2 of them before they actually came out. One of them on the day it released, and this one before it came out as well. Was that my last arc for the month? I think it was. 4 arcs. Killing it. So this one is called Tell Me It's Right by Katie Wismer. I don't have a physical copy of it yet. I really want one, but she's got 2 different covers and I can't decide between the 2. In fact, I'll put both covers here. Maybe you guys can help me out with this. I don't know which one to go for. I personally love people on the cover. I really enjoy covers with people on them. I'm really sad that I didn't get the original covers for Elsie Silver's series, you know, the Chestnut Spring series. That literally just came back to me then. I was going to tell you the series that starts with Flawless and ends with Hopeless. I am hopeless. I'm really sad I didn't get the original indie covers with people on them. So I actually really enjoy books with people on them, covers with people on them. I don't mind that. But both of these covers are absolutely stunning, and it's been really hard not to just buy both. In all honesty. Anyway, this book, absolutely loved it. I got an arc of it, gave it 5 stars. This book was so good. We're following 2 characters. Off the top of my head right now, I can't remember their names, only because I'm filled with all of these books right now. But we're following 2 characters. She's just gotten through college, but she's really struggling to get a degree. So she's ended up moving back home, but instead of moving in with her parents, her brothers offered for her to move in with him and his wife. So she's living in their basement. Now she feels like a failure at life. She's been able to get this college degree but not been able to get a job. It is in like marketing and stuff like that. And her brother's best friend owns a tattoo studio in town. Now, at the time she doesn't know this, but he like kind of offers her a job once he finds out she's struggling, and he sees that her sister-in-law's kind of taking the piss a little bit and being a little bit aggressive about it, because he's already seen her in the coffee shop that morning applying for jobs and looking really stressed. He's like, listen, do you want a job at my tattoo studio? I'll give you a job. You can have a job. We need the help. He can't really afford it, but he gives her this job anyway, and then she starts working for him as his social media manager. So she takes the job on, but things start to, you know, sparks start to fly between these 2. They're a little bit like, they're not enemies to lovers by any means at all, but obviously his brother's best friend. They get on, but she's kind of seen him as always kind of taking the piss out of her a little bit, and they do back and forth banter like that, taking the mick, but it becomes something more. And it's a really good, the thing I love about this book is not only is it brother's best friend, which is rapidly becoming one of my favourite tropes, but the relationship that them 2 have together, I love that. The relationship that she has with her brother, although it's a little bit cold to begin with, it does become something very, very warm, and I love that relationship. Also the relationship she has with her parents, the relationship he's got with his family, a very different story, and I like the 2. It's almost like night and day, and I really enjoy that. And there's a lot of very important conversations go on in this book about family. He's very much so ingrained in the Collins family, which is her family, so much so that he'll go spend like Thanksgiving with her family instead of his. So different things like that. Absolutely love this book. It was so fucking good. The vibes were immaculate and I had such a good time. So if you could help me out with deciding which one of these to pick up, because I would like a physical copy of it. If I really enjoyed an arc of a book, I will buy a physical copy to support the author. So as a trophy on my shelves as well, especially if I give it 5 stars. So I would really like to get a copy, but I truly don't need both. So I have to decide which one to get, and I don't know the answer to this question. So if you could help me out, these are the options. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I gave this book 5 stars. It was really good, and I'm really excited about the next one in the series because of who the next 2 characters are. We got a glimpse with the first chapter at the end of the book. I didn't read the first chapter because I knew that I would then want the book immediately, but I did see who the characters are, and I'm so excited. So very excited for that one. Would recommend 5 stars. Next, I did have I Will Find You by Carlin Hoban. Carlin Hoban. Harlan Coben. Oh no. Next we do have I Will Find You by Harlan Coben. Jesus. Fuck. I gave this 2 stars. Oh no. My first Harlan Coben as well. I kind of wish I'd read one that I'm familiar with the story with, like Fool Me Once, because I've seen the TV series for that one. I don't know what it was about this one, but I just didn't enjoy myself. It was kind of quick once I got into it. We're following David and Cheryl, who are, you know, in love, married. They've got a little boy called Matthew, blah, blah, blah. But something happens in which Matthew ends up dead and David ends up in prison. 5 years have now passed. David and Cheryl are no longer together, and all of a sudden Cheryl's sister comes into prison to visit David and tell him that she's seen a picture with Matthew in the background. Sounds incredible, right? Let me tell you that the plot of this story, the whole point of it, was so fucking dumb it's not even funny. If you would like to know, if you've no interest in reading this but you're very intrigued to know why the plot was fucking dumb and the reason behind all of this happening and why it was so dumb, there is a spoilery section in the vlog in which I read this. It should be on the thumbnail. There's a spoilery section in which I spoil it. It's got a board around it to say that it's a spoiler. If you're interested, if you're planning on reading it, don't watch that bit and skip it. But oh, it was so fucking dumb and I was so annoyed. So dumb, because the synopsis, incredible, sounds great, sign me up. I was a little bit anxious about the fact that his son was called Matthew though, and that's my brother's name, and I didn't like the fact that a child had been killed. But where it went, great, really good. Dragged a little bit, but it was good. What the fuck is all of this? What is this? And why do you mean to tell me that that is the reason why all of this happened? Because it was really fucking stupid. Really stupid. And I'm mad about it. I'm really mad about it. I'm sad about this situation. I gave it 2 stars. I'm annoyed. And then things started to pick up a little bit. They got a little bit better. I did read The September House by Carissa Orlando. I gave this 5 stars. This was really good. I was doing a haunted house vlog. We went to Wales in a cabin. It was a good time. I will leave a link to the video up here if you want to watch it, whichever side it goes. I picked this one up. This was so good. We are following our main characters, Margaret and Hal. They bought a house a few years ago. I think it's 4 or 5 years ago. A large Victorian house. And then September, this was like in May, and then September rolled around and the walls started bleeding and there were ghosts and there was all kinds of weird shit going on, and all of these ghosts were terrified in the basement. And for some reason, Margaret and Hal kind of took this in their stride. I don't know if they thought it was a passing phase, because by the end of September, all was fine with the house again. And then the following year rolled around and it happened again in September, and all these ghosts are terrified of something in the basement. And then it happens again, and by the 4th year, Hal's decided he can't fucking do this anymore and he's leaving. He's had enough. Now they've got a daughter called Catherine. who hasn't visited the house so far. When they first moved in, they were like, yeah, you need to come and visit us, blah, blah, blah. Then September happened and they were like, absolutely fucking not, she cannot come here. She will judge us for staying when all of this shit's going on in September's. So she then decides that she's going to go around because she hasn't heard from Dad. She's really concerned. Mum then tells her that, oh, Dad left and I don't know where he is, blah, blah, blah. Mum's not concerned about it. Catherine is panicking. She's like, what do you mean he left? I'm coming down right away. Now, September, it's fast, we're in September, it's fast approaching, we're in it. And Margaret is now having to try and hide as much as she possibly can, all this shit going down in the house. And this was a ride, let me tell you. This was wild. It freaked me out. It gave me the heebie-jeebies, and it was a good time, and I loved it. And I will say, one of the characters, Frederica, who's one of the ghosts, she's fucking hilarious, and I thought she was brilliant. She actually like helps Margaret out with keeping the house tidy and making brews and some lunch for for Margaret and stuff, and she's just really funny. I think it's really hilarious the way that Margaret, I thought I was insane for a second. Then I was like, no, I think Margaret might be insane. And then the book went on and I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. She just goes about her days in September like nothing's happening in the house. She'll sit and have a conversation with Frederica. She will go about her day. No fucks given. And I just loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I gave it 5 stars. It was so good. And I'm really glad I saved it for September because, yeah, September House. It was great. Next in that video, I did read Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, and this was really good. Instead of an actual house, though, it is a haunted ghost ship. Well, it's a ghost ship. It's a haunted ship in space, but it's essentially where these people lived for a long period of time. So it's kind of a haunted house, you know? This, again, it's like a descent into madness. It was absolutely wild. We're following Claire. She's kind of on her last hurrah with her crew. She's days away from being made unemployed. She ends up coming across this distress signal and makes the decision with her crew to go over and find out exactly what's going on with this ship. Now, imagine their shock when it turns out that it's the Aurora, a famous luxury space liner that vanished on its maiden tour of the solar system more than 20 years ago. Salvage claim like that would make sure that she would be in money for a good portion of her life, especially on the basis she's about to be made unemployed. So they board the ship. However, all is not as it seems, and shit starts to get real weird real fast. This is told in 2 different timelines. So it's told in them finding the ship, approaching the ship, going on the ship, and exactly what happens while they're on the ship. It's also told in present day when Claire is back and she is telling this story to officials, and they're trying to make heads or tails of it, and then that story kind of goes on as well. So it's told in 2 different timelines, and it was really good. It was really interesting, and I had a very good time with it. This has been on my shelves for a while. It's another book that Andy picked, so I'm so glad that he picked this one up because it's forced me to get through it. It was on my 24 books in 2024 as well, and I had a fantastic time. And now I've got Ghost Station on massively on my radar. It was already on my radar anyway, but I didn't want to buy it until I'd read this one, so I'm really excited to get my hands on that one and give that one a read. But I loved this. I thought it was really good. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was so fucking good and I had a good time with it. And then the third haunted house book I did read in that vlog was episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. I'm so glad I picked this one up. The audiobook for this, 100% would recommend audiobooking this one because it's told in mixed media format. The audiobook is a full cast and it's got all kinds of like sound effects and everything. I would put your headphones on because you get the most incredible storytelling ever. It's so good. It is so good. You get like little deep breaths in your ear, and you know, it's, oh, it gives you chills up your spine, and it's just really fucking good. Little whispers and little songs and all of that stuff. It was so good. This is following a film crew who film this TV show called, it's a ghost hunting reality TV show called Fade to Black. It's led by a husband and wife team, Matt and Claire. And the interesting thing about these two is that Matt has had a interaction with a ghost before. Claire doesn't believe. She's more on the science side of things, where he's more on the paranormal side of things. And then they've got this other, you know, a couple of other people with them. So they end up going to this house, and for some paranormal research, but things get really fucking weird really fucking fast, and it does become a little bit too much for some of the crew. And I loved this. Again, I mean, a haunted house story is a bit of a descent into madness, because you don't know whether or not these things are happening or whether you're hallucinating, and then you don't know for what reasons you're hallucinating or for what reasons they're actually really happening. But this was just really, really good, and I had such a fun time with it. I really want to read more from Craig DeLuey now, which again, I had another one of his books on my radar, which was how to make a horror movie and survive, or something like that. I've got that one on my radar, so I'm really intrigued about picking that one up now as well. But I know that Craig's done some other books as well, and I've heard that some good things about some of the others. What's the one that I've definitely heard of? Suffer the Children is one that I've definitely heard of. So I am intrigued about that one, I think. But if you've read any more from Craig DeLuey and you think, well, I'll enjoy them, let me know. But this was fantastic. I gave it 5 stars. Just the audiobook, so good. I would recommend immersion reading with this. Audiobook while following along with the physical book is just such a good time. And I'm so glad that we actually had access to the audiobook for this in the UK, because I would have been really sad had I not, to be honest. Then I did read Ragnarok Crimson, which is a manga, and Jade put this in my Patreon part, and I really enjoyed myself with this one. I gave it 4 stars. This is essentially, if you like solo leveling, you will like this. It's a little bit like solo leveling, but with dragons. And on the flip side, if you enjoy this, I think you would enjoy solo leveling. It's quite similar in a way, minus the dragons in solo leveling, but I enjoyed this one. We are following Ragnar, and the dragons in this are assholes. So Ragnar is a dragon hunter, but things become quite interesting for Ragnar. And he essentially has a partnership with a young genius, Leonika, who is a master dragon slayer with more kills to her name than almost any other, and all he wants to do is stay by her side and help her. However, his dream is shattered by an attack from the deadliest dragon imaginable, and things start to go a little bit awry for Ragnar. And this was really, really good. I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as Jade, I don't think, but I am intrigued enough to continue on with the series, and I'm glad that I've picked it up, because I know that Jade absolutely loved this series. So I am intrigued to pick this one up, well, pick the rest of them up, continue on with the series and see where it goes. Had a very good time though, 4 stars. Then I did another reread for the same video. I did the Sadie reread, and it is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerry Maniscalco. My initial read of this, I gave 5 stars. Absolutely love this series. Again, not going to give you my full thoughts on my reread of this, because they will be in that video that comes out later on in the month. I did tab this one though, so I reread this one. That's all you're gonna get from me. Then I did read Brielle and Bear by Salome Doku. This was so cute. It is a graphic novel. The illustration style in here is stunning, and we are following Brielle and Bear, and they go to the university called Once Upon a Time. So fucking cute. Brielle works in a bookshop, and Bear is one of the jocks, if you like, but he's not really that much of a jock. He's a completely different person than what people think he is. And she sees him, she comes across him in the library one day, and he then spends a lot more time in the library because he's interested in Brielle. They end up in a situation where she ends up, the first years are kind of helping out the older ones with proofreading their work. So she ends up teamed up with Bear, and some things kind of come to light about who Bear is as a person, etc, etc, and a little bit of a relationship starts. We kind of don't get a full relationship by the end of this, but I believe that there is more coming, so I'm very excited. It is stunning. It's set during autumn and winter, so it is the perfect book to be picking up for this time of year. And I will say as well, the illustration style is, you know, the colour palette for this, whatever season you're in, just matches stunningly. Absolutely beautiful. I love this. I gave it 4 stars. It was so good. Very excited to continue on with that series. Then I did pick up Morbidly Yours by Ivy Fairbanks. I had a normal copy of this, and then I spotted it in Asda with the pink sprayed edges for Asda's Tickle Pink, which is where they donate a certain amount of the sale to charities. So I ended up picking this one instead. First of all, it was more floppy, but second of all, the pink sprayed edges went with it so nicely, and it goes to charity. So I ended up picking this one up. We are following Callum and also Lark. Callum owns the family undertaking business, but in order to keep the family undertaking business, he must marry before his 35th birthday, which is rapidly approaching, and that he has no marriage prospects going on at all. Lark has come from Texas. She's got a job in Ireland. We're in Galloway, and she ends up moving in next door to the undertaking business. Now, she ends up coming across Callum because she gets a delivery of some body bags, which obviously are not for her. They've been accidentally delivered to her. She takes them down. She ends up meeting Callum. And very, very, very quickly, these two end up becoming very fast friends, and then a relationship ensues from there. This gave me a little bit of insta-love. For some reason, I just had zero fucking interest in this book, which is really bizarre. I did when I picked it up. I was really intrigued when I picked it up. Loved the fact that in the audiobook, the guy that does Callum was Irish. Loved that. Obviously, the girl that was doing Lark's ones, she put on a Texas accent. I will say, in a book like this, I feel like they should have done duet narration, because I feel like it would have been really good in Lark's chapters whenever Callum was speaking to have the guy with the Irish accent doing it, rather than the narrator who's playing Lark trying to put on an Irish accent, doing not a great job of it. And then similarly, Callum's chapters, the guy who's playing Callum wasn't doing a great job of Lark's Texan accent either. So I don't know, it kind of kept dragging me out of the story a little bit. Maybe I should have physically read it, but in general, the audiobook was okay. I don't know what it was about it. I just did not enjoy this. I gave it 3 stars. It's not that I didn't enjoy it, actually. It was alright. I didn't hate it, but I didn't have a great time. It was spicy. Once the sex scenes came in, I had no interest in this. And I don't know if it's that maybe I'm just not in the mood for short, fluffier, spicy-ish romances. Maybe I'm in the mood for, and as it turns out, I think I'm actually correct with this, I think I'm in the mood for slow burn, longer romances. I think that's what I'm in the mood for at the moment, and I think maybe that's what's up. So I think I am going to keep hold of this, and I may come back to it and give it a reread at some point, take my time with it a little bit, but 3 stars. It was just okay. And then last, but by no means least, The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I gave this 3.5 stars. I enjoyed this. This was good. I enjoyed it more than The Hobbit, which I hated. So that's good news. I'm reading this series with my patrons. We're doing a book every 2 months, and September was the time for me to be picking this one up. November I'll be picking up Two Towers. So I had a good time with this one. I will say, in general, it drags a little bit with the, you know, the whole mooching through the woods and everything. The songs got on my last nerve a little bit. Andy Serkis did a great job of narrating this though, and there were a couple of characters that I thought were really funny. Tom Bimbadale, whatever the frig he's called, he was funny. I quite liked his character. I can't remember whether or not he's in the movie, Tom Bimbadale even. And then the farmer as well, whose name I can't quite remember now, but they come across a farmer at some point when they're crossing through his field, and for some reason Andy Serkis made him sound like Hagrid, and I thought I had to stop the audiobook, check what book I was listening to, because I thought for a second that I just transported to Hogwarts for a minute and we were having a conversation with Hagrid, who also had a dog called Fang. This farmer had a dog called Fang, and so he sounded like Hagrid. He had Hagrid's dog, and I thought we'd just transported to Hogwarts and then we were coming back to the Lord of the Rings with the hobbits, but no, just that the farmer sounded like Hagrid. It was really funny. But in general, I had a good time with this. I enjoyed myself a lot more than The Hobbit, and I'm glad I've picked it up. I'm glad I've read it. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I'm looking forward to continuing on with the series. I do kind of want to rewatch the movie now though, so that I kind of have it fresh in my mind, but we'll see. Maybe I'll read all of the books and then rewatch all of the movies, because I tend to binge them back to back and just do like a long Lord of the Rings day. But anyway, that's everything that I read in the month of September. It was quite a bit, but as I said, I did have quite an up and down month. I had a few 5 stars, so I had, ignoring any rereads, I had Best Hex Ever, Tell Me It's Right, The September House, episode 13. So I had 4 5-star reads, which for me is fine, but I've done better because I know my reading taste very, very well. But 4 5-star reads, but I did have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3-star reads, which were all 3.5 stars, to be fair. They were all 3.5 stars except for Morbidly Yours. And then I had 2 2-star reads. So, well, 2.5 star reads with I Will Find You and Luci and Dying, which is a real shame. And then the rest was 4 stars. So, I don't know. It was a very up and down mix of what was going on. A huge mixed bag of what I was reading, to be perfectly honest. Let's hope October will be better. Chat to me in the comments down below. Do you have a preference on which of the Tell Me It's Right covers I should pick? Let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, what was your favourite book of September, or your least favourite book of September, most surprising? Whether that be it was surprising because you didn't expect to love it as much, or you didn't like it as much as you'd hoped. Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you in whatever comes next. Bye for now.